Hello, lover. You've just entered a portal of pleasure, power, and deep, unapologetic sensuality. This is Talk Tantra to Me, where we liberate your authentic self, reclaim the wisdom of the body, and let pleasure lead the way. I'm your guide, Leola, tantrika, pleasure priestess, best-selling author of Sacred Sex Ed, and devoted student of the erotic mysteries. I'm here to strip away shame and awaken your most radiant, sacred, and sensual self. Get in, babe. We're conspiring for your most pleasurable life and seducing the world into a greater good. So, take a deep breath with a vocal exhale, relax that delicious body of yours, and let's talk Tantra. Over the years, I've been approached by many pleasure-based companies to promote their products, but I've only ever said yes to one person because I genuinely love these products so much, as well as the woman behind them. Wands, spelled W-A-A-N-D-S, is a crystal pleasure toy company, and they have been a part of my Tantra journey since the beginning. And they're not just toys, they're truly activators and beautiful sacred pieces of art that foster deep self-connection, pleasure, and transformation. These 100% pure crystal wands and yoni eggs help you unlock your body's wisdom, clear energy blockages, and amplify your pleasure, whether alone or with a partner. And it's not just about the products. For me, it's about the heart and the soul behind them. And the owner, Courtney, I absolutely adore her. She's been so generous to offer you, my beloved listeners, an exclusive 15% off with the code Leola, L-E-O-L-A. So if you're ready to honor your sacred sexuality and awaken your sensual energy, stepping into a pleasure-filled life, head to wands.com. Again, W-A-A-N-D-S, 2 A's, and use code Leola for 15% off. And you can always find the link directly in the show notes. Trust me, you're going to thank me later. Hi, babes. Today we are filming from bed, which feels like such a full circle moment because it was pretty much exactly 8 months ago to the day that I was recording an episode called Leola's Favorite Things plus Life Update. And today we're doing another sort of life update. This one is a pregnancy recap. But in that episode that came out on November 13th, I was just about to find out that I was pregnant. It was that very evening that I felt the implantation. So we had already conceived, but it was that night that I felt the implantation. And I had a feeling that I was pregnant. I had a very strong inkling, and that inkling was correct. And here we are. But yeah, it was in that episode as well that we were, finishing the season, if you will. I don't have technical seasons of Talk Tantra to Me, but over the past couple of years, I've kind of had this cycle where I do, a bunch of episodes in the fall, and then I take a 2-month break over the holidays. And then we do another set of episodes in the spring, and then we take a 2-month break in the summer, which is just perfectly aligning for my maternity leave that I'm about to go on. So this is the last episode before a 2-month break. Good news is that we have so many episodes already planned, and many of them are already recorded as well. So I'm very excited to be coming back to you in the fall, but this will be the last one for a moment. I'm going to do my best to do this in under an hour. But, probably going to be longer if I'm honest. And hopefully that will maybe hold you over, I guess. I look at the last 2 life updates that I've done, and they were both, one was an hour and 20 minutes. That was Leola's Favorite Things. That's episode 204. Highly recommend it. It's actually I'm looking at the stats now too, and you guys really liked that one. That was a very well received episode. And then the next episode was episode 205. After, obviously, I found out I was pregnant, we went on that 2-month break over the holidays. And then it was my comeback episode in early February where I talk about the conception journey and my first trimester. So in this episode, I'm going to be doing kind of a pregnancy recap entirely. However, I'm not going to be talking about the conception. I'm also not going to be talking very much about trimester 1 because I talked about a lot of those things in episode 205, which is the conscious conception. So if you want to listen to them like both, you might want to go back and listen to that one first. You might not. Whatever works for you. I'm probably also going to be referencing lots of other podcasts in this episode. Because there's just so many things that came up for me to talk about today. And there are also many other places where I talk about my journey in starting a family and the different inner transformations that have happened and the different ways that I have applied the tantric philosophy and lifestyle to this journey. So I'll be referring to those as we go through this. Okay, so I have some notes. I have some notes that I'm going to be kind of flowing from, but it's also going to be, just very free flow. I want to take a moment to just express my gratitude to you guys for listening, for, following along with me on this journey. It's been almost 6 years of the podcast. I've been in this work professionally for 7 years, and it is so gratifying, so fulfilling to do what I do, but it also feels really good to just be a human and be a person and be received as Leola, who's a Tantra teacher, but also a mother and also a wife and also just a girl. And so, thanks for your interest beyond the professional aspect, I suppose. And it's all connected, right? It's all connected. So with that being said, I've broken this up into 6 parts. However, we might only get to 5. The last one's kind of a bonus if I'm not like running too long with this and I'm not like exhausted. Sorry, I hope you probably could hear that. My almost empty drink straw situation. But let's get into it. So, pregnancy recap, overview. This is going to be the first part. Actually, I'll go through all the parts first and then we'll go through them. So the first part, I want to talk about just an overview of pregnancy. Second, I want to talk about the trimester recap. So talk a little bit more about trimester 2 and trimester 3. Third part, birth prep, what I'm doing to prepare for birth. 4, just generally looking at pregnancy, what I'm glad I did, what I wish I'd done differently, and what I'm not doing. And then part 5 is going to be my postpartum plan. And then I'm not going to share part 6 just in case we don't get there so that you don't get excited about it. And then have that candy taken away from a baby vibe. Okay. So, overview of pregnancy and how I feel going into birth. If I had to sum it up, it's like pregnancy is such a wonderful and deeply, deeply strange experience. I think that one way to look at it is an elongated medicine journey. It's deeply uncomfortable at times. Definitely more, I don't want to say more uncomfortable than I thought it was going to be. But I would say that. I think it's more uncomfortable than I thought it was going to be. I will say that I feel just knowing myself, witnessing other close friends go through this journey and also just witnessing people online and other stories, I would say that I've had a mild to moderate pregnancy, like in terms of symptoms and complications. Like I feel like it's been pretty chill to moderate. Definitely haven't had any complications or like anything too crazy. I didn't have HG, which is where you're like vomiting the entire pregnancy and you're really ill. I didn't have any like super high risk things happen. Like I had morning sickness. I was uncomfortable. I still am uncomfortable as I sit here in my bed on my heating pad. And all in all, I would say it was mild to moderate personally. There were definitely moments that were more intense and harder, but overall I feel like pretty easeful. And despite that, I would still say that overall it's been a more uncomfortable experience than I expected, especially physically. also emotionally, but mostly physically. My weirdest symptom is nosebleeds. Didn't know that was a thing. Didn't know that was going to happen. Don't think that happens for many women, but for me, I have not been like an avid nosebleeder at any point in my life. Apparently it's something with like the increase in the amount of blood that's flowing through your body and the pressure that puts on I don't even know. I don't know the science. I looked it up when it was happening, but whatever. They've definitely calmed down in the third trimester and were the worst in the second trimester, the nosebleeds. Thankfully, the second trimester, all the other symptoms were really mild. So I was just dealing with nosebleeds, but it would be like random. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night with just like blood pouring out of my nose. It was really bizarre. But those would only happen like once a week, maybe twice a week in like the really intense periods. And then they kind of went away. I did have one like a week ago, but it was like really, really, really mild. But I haven't had any in like maybe besides that, like maybe like a month, maybe not a whole month. I'm not sure. But that's my weirdest symptom, nosebleeds. Everybody has different ones. I've heard like I went up 2 sizes in shoes. Like, I don't know, just whatever. I would say that the experience has been wildly miraculous. There is just nothing quite like feeling this love just growing inside of you, knowing that you like, it's crazy because like being pregnant, like it feels like I've peaked, but I also know that I'm on the cusp of like the greatest love of my life. And I'm like currently experiencing the greatest love of my life in my marriage, in my relationship, like in my body, but also knowing that like it's gonna just totally explode. And like, how is that even possible? And then just like feeling her move and roll around and just noticing more and more of her spirit come into the space. It's just incredibly miraculous. Seeing what the body can do and create as well. And like the trust that happens between the heart and the body and the mind. Like it's wildly miraculous. So despite the comforts, 10 out of 10 would do it again, but probably just one more time. We'll see how the birth goes. We'll see how the birth goes, but I would do it again. I don't want to make any promises. We're taking it one at a time, but I could see us getting pregnant one more time, maybe 2, maybe none. Originally, I always wanted to have one and adopt one, and I still would really like to adopt or foster, but we have time. We have so much time. So that's that. I also want to briefly just share how I'm feeling about birth, going into birth. I'll be talking more about like my birth prep, but overall, I'm feeling really good. I talked quite a bit about this in the Conscious Conception podcast as well, which again was episode 205. But yeah, I'm feeling really good, which says a lot because I used to be really terrified of birth and really like not be looking forward to it. But I actually am feeling really excited and I'm really looking forward to it. By the way, I should have shared this earlier. I am currently as this is recording, not when this is coming out. As this is recording, I am almost 37 weeks. So we are in that period where baby could come any day now. Not super likely. A typical gestation is around 40 weeks, oftentimes for first time mothers. And that's how they calculate the due date. The due date is 40 weeks from your last missed period. And usually, or more often than not, first time moms tend to have their babies a little later after the 40 weeks. However, you can have your baby at any time, but it's the chances go up significantly week by week once you hit 36 weeks. And it's my understanding that 36 weeks, that's when the baby's like all of the major development and things are done and like the baby's good. It's just the baby gets stronger and like grows a little bit more, gets a little bit more like meat on its bones those last 4 weeks, which is important. But yeah, I'm 37 weeks. So we are in that period where the baby could come any day and I can have the home birth that I would want. If I were to give birth before 36 weeks, I would more likely than not need to go to the hospital. So that's really exciting. We crossed that threshold. And yeah, she could come any day now. I was an early baby. a lot of us, like, as I'm tuning in to myself and my friends, and like a lot of us think she's going to come early, but I'm preparing. I mean, is that honest? I don't think that it is. I was going to say I'm preparing to go to 41 or 42 weeks. I'm really not. I really think she's going to come early and I am not. I mean, it'll be fine. Like, it's just going to be what it's going to be. Like, and that's how I feel about the birth overall. It's going to be what it's going to be. At the end of the day, I have a vision. I have a desire to have a really empowered orgasmic birth that ideally is not days long. And baby's going to come the way baby's going to come. And I'm totally at peace with the possibility that I do have to go to the hospital, or I might need a C-section or whatever interventions. I also feel very educated as to what those are and just like the likelihood of that needing to happen. But I think that it is important to like have a vision in mind and also let go of attachment. And that's obviously a very tantric concept. So yeah, I'm just mostly excited to just meet this little girl and have her in my arms and in my bed and put her in cute little outfits and get to know her and see my husband interact with her. And I do feel that if anyone is equipped to have an empowered birth, it's me. And I think that you can have an empowered birth having a C-section. I don't think that an empowered birth means that it needs to be the orgasmic home birth that I deeply desire. But I feel really good. So that's how I'm feeling about birth. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about birth prep later. I also just want to highlight, as I kind of start this podcast off, and share this overall perspective of pregnancy that I have on the other side, being like pretty much done. Like it's going to be over in days or weeks. Probably not hours, but anyways, pregnancy, and I don't remember exactly where I heard this, but someone told me pregnancy is a healing state. And that resonates so much. I believe that there is scientific evidence of this. Like, for example, I know that when you are pregnant, even if you have an abortion or even if you miscarry, the immune cells, like the white blood cells or something like that, like they stay in your body from that baby and they will support your immune system and like continue to fight for your body. Like, it's so crazy. There's that piece. I think that a lot of us end up obviously, being sober, like, just taking care of our bodies at a different level. And I think that that's really healing. Also, there's science around the neuroplasticity that happens around pregnancy. So the healing that can happen in your mind and in your subconscious and, doing your shadow work, like at this time, it's really powerful, healing your belief systems. And so that's definitely something that I have witnessed and experienced. I think a good metaphor that maybe more people would relate to is we do all this inner work, right? When we're like, people say like, do your inner work while you're single so that you can be the match for your partner and like, just like do all this work. But then you get into relationship with your person and you're like, oh shit, like this is where the work really begins. Like, it's like before you get in a relationship, a sacred union relationship, for a lot of us, we do all of this work ahead of time, but it's kind of like we're like reading about riding a bike. And then once you're in a relationship with someone who is like perfectly matched to mirror your pain pieces and your growth opportunities, it's like, okay, now we're fucking riding the bike. Okay. And I think pregnancy is like another degree of that, right? So pregnancy is a healing state to me because it also has brought up all of those little things that I felt like I already healed to heal all over again. For example, family of origin stuff has been really big in this pregnancy.
Makes sense. I've done a lot of healing around my relationship to my family. I love my family. They're not a huge, huge part of my life, but I do love them. I forgive them. I see the good in them, the blessings. And there are just certain ways that they do not show up for me. And they do not feel met. And have felt abandoned and have felt like an inconvenience and have felt like not a priority, for example. And when becoming pregnant, there was this initial hope of, well, maybe now things will be different. Maybe now this family member will show up the way that I've always wanted them to because I'm pregnant with their new relative. I'm being very intentional not to name to make it more ambiguous and not out anyone, but there was this hopeful energy of like maybe things will be different now because I'm pregnant. Why would they be different now? Why would they suddenly change? I don't know. Maybe they could, whatever. But the point is they have not. And that brought up like a whole other level of like, God, like I don't have the family member that I wish that I had. And now my daughter doesn't have that either with that person that could be showing up different or quote unquote better in my opinion. Right. And the beautiful thing is that we have incredible chosen family and we do have other family members that show up really, really powerfully and well. And it's all good, but it definitely has brought up more of my core childhood wounds than I was expecting. But I got to move through that and heal that. And there were a few different ways I did that, which I'll talk more about later. But a lot of it was just allowing myself to grieve. But I think that there can be this tendency to, when you get pregnant, it's two sides of the same coin. On one side, I was romanticizing so many of my early childhood memories that I'm excited to share with my daughter and have her experience. And some of them did involve some of these family members. And then there's the flip side of the grief of oh my God, the childhood trauma I have and not wanting her to go through that and wanting to protect her from, it's a lot. So that's one piece. Another big healing level that's came up has been around my sexual assault. You guys know that this is the bread and butter of my work. This is what a lot of what got me into this work is, healing my own experiences with sexual violence and supporting other people with doing so. And that's been a thing that has come up on a whole other level. Really interestingly, throughout this pregnancy, the Epstein files came out, which I already knew about. That was quote unquote nothing new, but it also was new because it was the first time that people were really talking about it at the scale that they were. There was also this this court case and this discovery of this website where all of these, men were drugging their wives or partners and then basically raping them and filming them and putting it on the internet. There were just so many weird, large scale displays of the reality of the sexual violence that's happening throughout our world that, we're just getting more press than they'd ever gotten before. And that definitely brought something up too, because I feel very fortunate that I get to give my daughter the sex education that I didn't have. And she's going to be so much more empowered. She's going to have an honest and pleasure-based sex education. She's going to have so many tools to express her boundaries and desires. And a lot of this stuff, I'm really proud to say, I included in my book, Sacred Sex Ed. And one of my favorite testimonials that I get for the book is when people say, I can't wait to share this with my son or my daughter or whatever young person in my life. That just totally tickles me. But at the same time, there are bad people that exist in the world. And it really broke my heart to think about the possibility of even though I'm going to give her all of these tools, I can't completely shield her and protect her from sexual violence. And that sucks. And it breaks my heart. And it's not her fault. And it's not my fault. It's a much bigger issue, which we talk about in many other episodes. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, but yeah, so much of my work is around reintegrating spirituality and sexuality, because I know that when someone sees this energy as sacred, they don't abuse it and they don't use it to have power over others either. And this is a shift that we get to see in the entire collective. And I'm just doing my small part here. Anywho, so that was another thing that came up with pregnancy to heal on another level. Lots of things around my body and body dysmorphia came up. Around trusting my body. This was another one that was big for me. Like, you know, so many of us grew up learning about our bodies as like an inconvenience, like every symptom or thing that's not working in our body, it's like, ugh, you know? And I think especially women, we learn about our period, we learn about our cycle as like this inconvenience to deal with. We learn about like the hair on our bodies, and it's like, oh, this obligation that I have to like get rid of and take care of. And it's so important in birth and in pregnancy to trust the body and to love the body. And I've just reached a deeper level of appreciation for my body and how well it communicates to me, with me, for me. I don't know how to phrase that, but I think that like one of my like little isms is that I can be a little bit hypochondriac, meaning if something is off in my body, if I experience a symptom, I am going to, worst case scenario, I hyperfixate on it. I'm very type A. Let me find out what's going on and like get this under control ASAP, which, you know, comes from trauma, but also like it has its pros, it has its cons. But there's been this new relationship in pregnancy where it's like, oh, instead of being frustrated at my body for having a symptom, there's this deep gratitude to my body for communicating to me, hey, this is what we need. And so instead of saying like, yeah, body, you're such an inconvenience, I'm just meeting it with this level of gratitude that I never have before. And that's pretty cool. And I think that's going to be really powerful in birth, especially because birth is an experience that often involves intensity and pain, and at the same time, that pain has a purpose. The body is doing a job, and the more that we resist it, the more that we are cutting off the possibility of connecting to the feel-good hormones that are available for us to literally get high on the experience of birth. So, that being said, we're nearly 30 minutes in and I'm just finishing up the first part. Okay, so let's move into the second part. I want to do like a little trimester recap. Again, I already did kind of a trimester 1 recap in episode 205. So we're going to jump right into trimester 2. Trimester 2 was great for me. This is when I intentionally planned a lot more of my outward facing work events, because I was so gratefully informed by other women and friends and business owners that had been through this transition that that's the time to do those things, because it's when you're feeling the best. And I wasn't even feeling awesome, but I will say trimester 2, definitely things felt the best in my body. So right around the beginning of trimester 2, I had the Pleasure Priestess immersion, which was so juicy and fun. Actually, the night before we started, Andrew and I felt her kick from the outside for the very first time. I felt her kick from the inside earlier in my pregnancy, around like week 10 or 11. But this was the first time that like I had my hand on my belly and I could feel it from the outside. And then I had Andrew put his hand and he could feel it too. That was around week 17. So sweet. I also was so happy because I felt like I popped literally like the days leading up to the Pleasure Priestess immersion. I look back on those photos and I'm like, I don't look that pregnant. Like, did I really pop then? But looking at the side-by-side photos of like week 16 to week 17, it's definitely a big difference. So I like that in those photos and for that experience, I got to really feel the embodiment of my pregnancy. Trimester 2, we also had our anatomy scan. That was a sweet moment. We just did we did two scans. We did one before we left for Europe at the beginning of my pregnancy, and then we ended up doing a second one to do the anatomy scan. Going into my first pregnancy, I wasn't sure if I was going to do a scan at all. There's different like schools of thought on this, but I'm ultimately really glad that we did. I also have a friend that ended up, because of her anatomy scan, like potentially saving like her and her baby's life because of some like condition. They were both fine, but like I don't know how to explain it. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, I'm really glad that I did the scan. And it was also just really sweet to see Andrew witness the scan and like his like awe and wonder, and like it was just really cute. Like on the ultrasound, she was like moving her like hands in this like claw like motion, and then like I was like seeing Andrew like do it with his hand at the same time, like mimicking what she was doing on the screen, and it was just like core memory. Like that's just something I'm never gonna forget. That was really cute. We also went to New York City in my second trimester. I was asked to teach at Sanctum, which is a high-end play party group. So we did a Tantra workshop the day before their play party. Really sexy, cool venue, cool people, got to connect with lots of couples and give them some incredible tools that they can bring home to deepen their intimacy, and just have a more fulfilling connection. So that just felt really special and awesome because I got to expense the whole trip to New York and then got paid on top of it. And I'm definitely looking forward to going back. They were immediately like, we would love to have you come back. Just let us know whenever you're here in New York or you want to come out. So that's definitely going to be a trip that I'm planning probably early to mid 2027. We've got the baby coming in late July, and then I already have like a retreat in November that I'm running, and I'm also guest teaching at another retreat in Costa Rica later in November. So I feel like 2027 is out for more travel, or 2026, sorry. But 2027, New York City, I'm coming to you. Trimester 2 and trimester 1 also had a lot of nesting, but especially trimester 2. And I'm really glad that I did a lot of my nesting in trimester 2, because I'm going to get to trimester 3 in a minute, but my body is like funky. Okay. So for anyone listening that's planning pregnancy, do not wait until the last minute to do your nesting. I highly recommend that you do as much as possible in the second trimester. To be fair, I'm also I'm an overachiever. Like I was painting all of the baseboards. Like I was on my hands and knees. You could hire someone to do that stuff, but like I was pretty involved. So yeah, but it was also just like really fun, and it kept me busy, and I'm just so happy with her room. It's like so cute, so whimsical. And then finally in trimester 2, we also had the Tantra Love Retreat that happened like at the end of my second trimester. And it was like the perfect time because I was like really showing by that point, but I also still felt fairly good in my body. I was like just starting to get, my back pain was just starting to get more regular, but I was still like sleeping really normally. Yeah, like I definitely was a little bit more boundaried with my time and energy while I was there. And we were really intentional to like bring on the best assistance so that we could just take as much pressure off of me as possible. But it was so great. It was so great. And yeah, it just felt like such a peak life experience to be just like full with my baby girl, and leading this experience that is just creating the type of world that I want her to grow up in. So that was really special. So yeah, that was trimester 2. Let's get into trimester 3. So trimester 3, wow, so many juicy things. As I mentioned, the Tantra Love Retreat ended right at the end of my trimester 2. And then so 5 days later, after we ended the retreat, I left for Dominica to go on a mama moon. So I went to the Caribbean solo. solo loco. I went solo to the Caribbean. I joined like a retreat, like a wellness yoga retreat, so that I would have like a little bit of structure and like people to connect with that were somewhat like-minded. But yeah, so I went into my third trimester, like the day I arrived, I basically was like going into my third trimester, and it was such a beautiful experience. I'm so glad I did it. Highly recommend for anyone who loves to travel. Like, even if your partner loves to travel too, like, I just think that going on a solo trip is just a different level of like inner inquiry happens. I wanted my husband to go with me, to be fully transparent, but he does not like to travel as much. And we were already traveling to New York and San Diego, which I'll get to in a minute. And I was really happy to go on my own. But I will say that like, it was that week, like literally as soon as my third trimester hit, like things just started to get way harder. It was almost like a light switch flipped over that week, where walking was way more exhausting, especially uphill. Sleeping got way harder. It started like in the third trimester, it started to be like, and it still is obviously because I'm still in it. Like, this was another thing I didn't expect. In sleep, you normally like kind of move around and turn over. If you want to turn over or like roll onto your side while pregnant in your third trimester, you have to completely wake up, because you just physically can't just roll over. Like your body is just too heavy. It's insane. So there's just a lot more waking up and potentially tossing and turning. I also started to get pregnancy insomnia, which wasn't really a problem for me. I kind of liked it. Like, I kind of liked waking up at like 2, 3, 4 a.m. I would like journal. I would bake a cake at like 3 a.m. Like, I was here for it. And again, I think that I'm in a very fortunate position, one that I took a lot of risks and worked really hard to be in, but I'm in a fortunate position that I generally don't work I don't have to work. I don't have anything on my calendar until noon. Most days I generally don't even do calls more than once a week, or like sessions more than once a week. And again, I wasn't facilitating anything in person in the third trimester. So yeah, like it hasn't really been an issue for me. I've been able to really embrace the changes and the quote unquote complications, but definitely in third trimester, flip switch. Walking's harder, like moving in general is harder, sleeping in general is harder, and also back pain. Oh my God. Like, and it's weird because I've had chronic back pain pretty much my entire life. I have scoliosis, but I know how to manage it. Like, it's not debilitating for me. It has been really frustrating at certain points, but it's usually on my lower back. I usually get really bad sciatica, which also a lot of women in pregnancy usually get sciatica. I've had no sciatica. I've had basically none, I could say. Like, I've had basically zero sciatica. It's like up higher. Like, it's like up in my ribs. And apparently it's because I have I have really long legs, but I have a short torso. And it's like, yeah. So anyways, that's been really annoying, especially traveling, or just like anything. Like, if there's anything where I need to be out of the house and I know that I'm going to be on my feet for a while, like it's going to be a hard decision for me if I'm going to commit to that or not. Like, I need to know that I'm going to be able to like take breaks and like there will be somewhere for me to like lay down. Like, if it's at like a friend's house and I can like go in the other room and like lay down on the couch, that's fine. But for example, I went to a concert also solo, and it was, and I mean, I had a seat to sit in, but it's like, even sitting up is it like has been painful. Like, even laying down at this point, like, it's like, I've got to kind of just be moving around and like getting into different positions every once in a while. Otherwise it's bothering me. So that's annoying. But, again, it could be worse. It definitely was the worst around traveling. So especially like, again, as I mentioned, I was in Dominica in the Caribbean for a week. And just in that time, it just got so crazy. So the flight back, it's interesting. The flight there, I didn't have many issues. The flight back, I flew business on one of my flights. And I couldn't get comfortable in business class, y'all. I was like, oh shit, like this is real. So it was really hard that day. It was really hard the day that I had the concert. And when we flew, like a couple weeks later, we flew to San Diego and we did a baby moon, and it was really hard in San Diego, pretty much the entire time in San Diego. That was like a few weeks later. It really, like the travel just in general really aggravated my system more than I was expecting. So I went to Dominica weeks 27 to 28. And then I went to San Diego. I think it was around week 30, 31. So just to give people like a little bit of a reference point. And the flight to San Diego is like a 3-hour flight from Austin. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I don't know if I would travel that late in my pregnancy again, which is crazy to me. Like I did not. I mean, it was worth it for sure. I'm super glad we went. We had a great time. But yeah, I want to wrap up a couple of things because I missed them. I just want to acknowledge that at the Mama Moon, I also had my colostrum come in for the first time, which is like the very first they were like little tiny droplets of milk. And that was really just like so sweet. We were like under waterfalls all day, and I came home and I just like noticed this like glistening droplet. And it's like, so incredible, our bodies. But I also had a lot of grief come up because there was like the group, like, you know, they're getting cocktails. They weren't drinking a lot because, you know, it's again, yoga and wellness. I would have been drinking for sure. You know me, like I love me a cocktail on the beach. I do. I like it. Speaking of which, the last episode of this podcast is called A Sex Priestess, an Addict in Love. And it's a story about my husband's sober, and has been in AA for like 17 years. So I really respect the relationship to various substances, and I do recommend that episode to listen to. While we're on that topic, there are a few episodes with Andrew recently that I really recommend. Those ones, people just love the episodes with Andrew. Can't blame them. He's great. We love him. Obviously, I married him. But episode 215, A Sex Priestess and an Addict in Love, we don't talk so much about the parenthood journey as much. We really talk about the relationship with pleasure. Like, when is pleasure medicine? When is it poison? Really recommend. And then we also had him come in for episode 211, Marriage as a Spiritual Practice. And that one is great. It gives you like, it's just more of like a casual conversation. And just gives you like a little insight into our relationship, and our marriage. And he shares a little bit more about how he's feeling in going into fatherhood as well. So, okay, back to trimester 3. So we did the Mama Moon, had the colostrum come in, also had a bit of grief just in, like, gosh, like just thinking back to like my earlier solo travel days where like I was just like a wild child. And, you know, there was one night where they all the people decided to go out to go see this like musician and like go dancing. And like, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like, and it's just the grief of, like, I didn't really feel FOMO. Actually, I felt very good about my decision. I also skipped out on like one day. They went like for a full day shopping and to waterfalls and to these sulfur springs. And I was like, I just need to rest. Like, my body is just begging to just sit by the pool and have a virgin pina colada. So that's what I did. But yeah, just previous versions of myself would not. Like, she would go and do everything and live it up. And it's just a different season. And like, that's totally okay. But there was also just like this, like, like, I'm past that time in my life. Like, what, like, my daughter is closer to that maiden youth than I am. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, especially because it's now been like 2 months since I actually did that trip, but it was really sweet and powerful. Also earlier in trimester 3, we had our first Mother's Day, which was so sweet. And I want to just read this poem. I found it. I did a post about like my reflections on Mother's Day, and I found this poem, and it just, every time I read it, it brings me to tears. So I just wanted to share it with you guys. Here it is. Before we become two, soon we won't be one. We won't move to the same rhythm. Our heartbeats won't drum together from within. This will be the last time I hold you this close. One day you will be on your way, and oh, the treasures you will find, the places you'll discover, the things you will achieve. It's impossible right now in this moment to think I won't bear witness to it all. How one day someone else will share your secrets and moods and know you much better than me. You will tell stories I've never heard before, while ours will echo in my heart forever. Oh my God. It just gets me. It just gets me. Like, she's going to have her whole, like, she can have her own little life. She's going to have her own little life. And I'm not going to, like, oh God, it gets me. It gets me. Whew. Okay. So anyways, we had Mother's Day. We also had Father's Day. That came obviously a bit later, but it was really interesting to see how we both wanted to spend our like Mother's Day and Father's Days. I'm not going to get too into it, but I was like, I want to celebrate this, make it like, oh, it's my first Mother's Day. And Andrew was like, I don't want to make any plans. I just want to be, I just want you to make me dinner. And I'm just like, which is hard for me because I am such a, like, I was like, oh, we could do this. We could do that. He's like, I want a blowjob and I want crab legs. Like, that's it. Okay, great. So that's what we did for him. For me, we went to the spa. We had like a special breakfast. I got myself a ring that's kind of representing my motherhood era. Which maybe I'll talk about at some other point, this piece of jewelry, because I'm really big on memorializing and like getting mementos that represent the transitions that we go through in our lives. But I'm going to be mindful of our time here. So that was really sweet. Andrew, technically it was his second Father's Day because last year I was also pregnant on Father's Day. I was not pregnant on Mother's Day. But I was pregnant on Father's Day. Unfortunately, I miscarried like a week later, but he's technically had 2 Father's Day now. Lucky bitch. Anyways, I'll have many more to come. But yeah, so that was cool. Yeah. Next, I want to talk about Baby Moon. So Andrew and I did go on a trip to San Diego. He had previously worked with a coach, and had a like VIP day credit to use with this coach. And we're like, perfect timing. Let's work with him before the baby comes. Cause this coach is like a father of 4 kids and it's just like really awesome. So Andrew did that. I went to the spa. We like met up. I, had coffee with him and his coach's wife. It was really sweet. San Diego, just in general, I'm so happy I did that. I highly recommend that all couples do some type of baby moon together. Even if it's just like a staycation, which again, in retrospect, I would maybe do instead of getting on a flight. But yeah, I think that the most precious moments for me of the baby moon were, 1, waking up in the morning and just being with each other. No one to take care of, no dogs to let out, just savoring the reality that this is going to be the first time, this is going to be the last time for a long time that it's just the 2 of us with no obligations. Because we come home, we've got the dogs and we've got the baby, and then it's going to, like, who knows when we're going to be able to get away again for something like this. And that was just really precious and really sweet. Yeah, I cried in Andrew's lap on the beach. I don't even remember why, but just like feeling into the preciousness of life and like, oh my God, like how amazing life is with him and how grateful I am that we found each other and that we get to do this together. And like also how heartbreaking it is that like we're going to die someday. And like, I don't know if that's going to be, hopefully that's decades and decades from now, but it could be tomorrow. Like, we literally don't know. We have no idea. And yeah, that just really hit me. So those are a couple of our highlights from our baby moon. We also picked out new wedding bands on that trip. So Andrew and I have our legal wedding ceremony that happened in July 3 years ago. So this month we're also celebrating our 3rd marriage anniversary. Our daughter's due date is within days of the anniversary, so she could technically come on that day. But we also we have our wedding anniversary. So we have like our marriage anniversary and we have our wedding anniversary. So this is why this is confusing. We got legally married at the courthouse exactly a year after we originally started dating. So we have that anniversary. But then we also wanted to have a wedding, but we wanted to wait until we had property to do it on. We felt very clear that we wanted to have like a backyard wedding on our home that we were going to raise our family in. So that happened in early November, which interestingly, we conceived that weekend when we were celebrating that anniversary. And now she's due the weekend of our actual marriage anniversary. So anyways, at our wedding anniversary that happened in November, the weekend that we conceived, Andrew re-proposed with like my dream engagement ring. When we originally got engaged, I was like, I'll take whatever. Like, I was on it. Like, honestly, I was just like so desperate to fucking get married. I was like, whatever's fine. Within reason. I did give him like a jewelry designer and I was like, anything from this designer. And he actually picked the very ring that I would have chosen. And it's beautiful and I still wear it on my other hand. But yeah, like it wasn't like, oh my God, like I've seen other people since then, like design their like the exact ring that's perfect for them. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I would love to do that. So anyways, he re-proposed with a gorgeous, huge yellow diamond, which is exactly what I wanted. So I have the engagement ring, but we never got a wedding band for that ring. And the wedding bands that go with my original engagement ring just don't fit. They don't fit this new ring. So we got me a new wedding band on the baby moon. And also we picked one out for Andrew because Andrew's ring we custom made from the beginning. And it is so dope. It's this cool, like gold ring with a bunch of black diamonds. It's like a signet style. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's just like got all these black diamonds on it. It's very us. It's also very flashy though. And Andrew just shared that he wanted something that was a little bit more classic wedding band, which kind of hurt my feelings because I was like, your original ring is so cool and I bought that for you and I feel sad that you don't want to wear it every single day. But also I get it. So we're going to, our intention is to exchange these rings. Like he's holding on to my wedding band. I'm holding on to his wedding band. We're going to exchange them on our anniversary. Where that happens depends on where baby girl is in her journey into our arms. But we did pick out the bands on the trip, on our baby moon trip, which was really sweet. I got back from that trip and we had the mama's blessing. So a group of my friends put together a celebration of my journey into matrescence, letting the maiden go, stepping into the mother. And it was so incredible because it was the first time in my adult life that someone created a celebration for me where I literally had no part in it, no hand in it. Like I fully was able to receive. I had no idea what was going to happen. It was so, so sweet. And I'll also just share that I shared about, so in episode 212, it's called the art of receiving and healing the receiving wound. In that episode, I actually talk a lot more about our baby shower. So I'm not going to talk about that here, but I shared about how the baby shower really like illuminated some of my receiving wounds. And it was really great to then go into the mama's blessing where I was asked to receive in an even bigger way because I had no hand in the planning or the financial piece, like, or anything. Like, it was completely handled by my friends. Mostly, shout out to Jolie Dawn. She's been on the podcast. She's guest taught on Pleasure Priestess. She's a great friend of mine. She fully was like, do you want me to host this for you? And I was like, sure, that would be great. So she flew in from out of state to do this. So sweet. So yeah, I'm just super grateful for her for making that happen, and all of the other ladies who just, yeah, like totally poured into me that day. Definitely expanded my capacity to receive. I went into the day with the intention, like I was repeating the mantra, may I receive with grace, may I receive with grace. And yeah, I think that we've got that encoded now. Like, it's fully there, and just in time for motherhood, where I'm going to be, needing to be increasingly more comfortable with receiving and asking for help and all of that. So that was stunning. Every mom deserves a mother's blessing. Every mother deserves to be held before she holds her baby. That's what it's about. I love it. I'm like excited. It was also cool because over the past, I guess 5 years, maybe 6 years, I've had several of my friends and clients walk through this portal into motherhood, and I've gone to their mother's blessings and baby showers and supported their meal trains and all of these things. And it just felt so sweet to be on the receiving end of that. Oh my gosh, I still have so much left, and we're coming up to the hour. But I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to take up this space. It's my podcast, whatever. Okay, let's keep going though. So that was really sweet. I also had my miscarriage anniversary recently. I talk about my miscarriage in episode 195 called Holy Heartbreak and Microdosing Motherhood. That was just an important moment to threshold to pass. So that happened a few weeks ago, and I did a little ritual on my land, and so much of what came forth in that ritual was how much death needed to happen for this very real life growing inside of me to happen. I don't think that we as a collective fully honor and recognize the breadth of death, and the way that death is actually more abundantly around us than in some ways sex and birth. Every day, there are parts of us that are dying. Every meal that we eat required death, whether it was the death of a plant or the death of an animal or whatever. Obviously I had the miscarriage happen that in so many ways was a catalyst to prepare me for the eventuality of motherhood, which again, I talk about in that episode 195. And then, just the versions of myself, the versions of my marriage that had to die to get here. It was just it was such an offering to death in that moment. Deep bows to death, deeply grateful. I'm so appreciative of all of the versions of myself that brought me to this moment, to this pinnacle in my life. And she's dying. She gets to die. Gratitude, bless up, and dead. So that was really cool. I did a little ritual for her. Oh my God. I'm just there's so many other things that I want to share about that specifically, but I do need to keep going. So I'm going to keep going. But anyways, that weekend though, I ended up having that night. So I did the ritual, and then I think it just stirred something up within me. I started to get really intense Braxton Hicks contractions, which for those that aren't aware, Braxton Hicks is kind of your uterus practicing for labor. I've had them since week 20. Not everyone gets them. They don't hurt. It's just it feels like your whole uterus and your tummy just gets hard like a basketball. But I started to get them where it was constant. I wasn't really having a break in between them, which is a little abnormal. So that started happening. Long story short, it was happening to such a frequency and degree that my midwife decided that she should come over at 3 a.m. to check my cervix, which also brought up, again, I had mentioned earlier in the podcast about my body's an inconvenience. I felt bad having this woman that I'm paying come over at 3 a.m. Because subconsciously I was like, I know it's fine. Like, I know I'm not going into like real labor. I know my daughter's fine. Like, we're good. And my midwife told me if it doesn't stop to call her to make sure. Anyways, we were fine. My body, she was like, your body very much is preparing for labor, and like, you could still go to 40 weeks. Like but it wasn't an emergency situation, which was good because I was only 35 weeks at that point. And again, I'm literally getting a Braxton Hicks right now. Contraction. Yeah, if it would have happened, if I would have been going into labor at that point in my pregnancy at 35 weeks, I was just before the cutoff of where she would feel comfortable to have the baby have the home birth. So that was great.
Imagine what could happen if you decided every sexual experience got you closer to your highest self and God. That is a quote that comes straight out of my best-selling book, Sacred Sex Ed. Sacred Sex Ed is the sex education that you never had, but that we all desperately need. One that is empowering, honest, and pleasure-based. It is the pathway to a future in which we feel empowered by our desires rather than a slave to them, in which we feel celebratory of our nakedness and vulnerability. Sacred Sex Ed is creating a world where we can openly and emphatically talk about the energy and acts that brought us into it. This book is not diagrams of genitals, nor is it Kama Sutra positions. It's about having deeply fulfilling intimacy, starting with yourself, with your beloved, and with the world. You can pick it up right now on Amazon. Just search Sacred Sex Ed or find the link to purchase it in the show notes. Can't wait to hear what you think. Let's get back to the episode.
Another beautiful thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks, just finishing up recapping trimester 3, Andrew and I went to a full day birth class, and it was very much like the mechanics of birth and what to expect and what to prepare for, as well as the energetics. Overall, I would say I knew there wasn't any new information for me in the workshop. Because I've done a lot of preparation already, which I'm going to be talking about soon. But it was really cool to do it with Andrew for many reasons. One, so I was like, okay, he knows what's happening. I don't want to be his teacher. I don't want to be his mentor. But it felt good to see him okay, this is how it's going to go, right? But my favorite moment of the class was when we did practice birth. So we would have practice contractions, and our partner would get into positions to support us, and we would do different positions to see what worked best for us and our bodies to, move through the intensity. But for one of the contractions, they had us, meaning the birthing people, the pregnant people, they had us support our partner and pretend like our male partners were the pregnant person and we were the daddy doulas. And that was really cool for me because it was only for a minute, right? The contractions are generally about a minute long. And I felt such an extreme weight of responsibility and care and pressure to do it right and to make sure he felt good and supported and loved. And I was like, oh my God, this is not an easy job. Yes, I have to actually birth the baby, but this is also hard. And it just made me appreciate him, my husband, so much more for being so gung-ho about taking that role and doing it so seriously and doing it so well and potentially having to do it for hours, if not days, in the near future. And yeah, it makes me emotional in this moment because I just think that I'm someone, and probably a lot of women relate to this, that I just feel I have very high standards. I have high expectations for the level of care and support that I want offered to me in that moment. And it just really softened and brought me into a space of compassion for seeing the other side of that and seeing the result of putting so much pressure. So anyways, that was really cool. Okay, we're into part 3 out of 5. So part 3, birth prep. These are some of the things that I've been doing to prepare for birth, mind, body, soul. So mindset. I've been doing lots of EMDR. Actually, I shouldn't say lots of EMDR. I just started doing EMDR in the past few weeks, but I've been going at it super hard, like doing multiple sessions a week that are like 90 minutes long, with the intention of really like rewriting any stories that I feel could hinder my ability to birth in an empowered way and to move through postpartum in an empowered way. I don't feel like I have enough information to really be like, definitely do EMDR, but I do think it's doing something. So EMDR, I've also been like all up in it with birth stories, with birth videos. I would recommend the Orgasmic Birth documentary. There's tons of like, it depends on what type of birth you want, but obviously I want a home birth. Obviously I would love to have an orgasmic birth. So yeah, the Orgasmic Birth documentary I thought was well done. And yeah, just like reading my friends' birth stories and talking to them about their birth stories, and like even for me, like a lot of people don't want to see the negative birth stories or the birth stories that end in C-section or intervention that we don't want to have. Personally, I really like listening and hearing those stories too, because I'm just the type of person that wants to kind of understand like what is the quote unquote worst case scenario and how would I handle that? And like just allow myself to fully intellectualize that possibility and feel it a bit too, so that, I don't know, I'm just that type of person that like that makes me feel more empowered to understand. So I don't like, if that does happen, I don't go in blindly, and like I know like I can handle any of the situations. So yeah, there's been like a few people that I've known since becoming pregnant that have had those types of stories, and they're the type of women that aren't victims to their experience. So the type of women that, yeah, like they had a C-section, that not only did they have a C-section, but they had like crazy complications with their C-section, and still they're like, this is what I learned from it, and this is how I decided to show up in this, and here's the truth. And yeah, just like having a little bit more of an empowered mindset. So that's been great. I've also been utilizing affirmations and doing lots of sex magic around birth and the birth experience. Let's get into body prep. I have to say, got to brag on myself here, I've been very good about moving my body in this pregnancy. Have I been working out hard? No, I have not. But every day I have either gone for at least a 30-minute walk, so like 2-mile walk, or I've done about 30 minutes of belly dancing, or I've done about 30 minutes of body weight Pilates and mobility. So yeah, I've been doing really, really well about the movement. Just being consistent with it. Like I'm not going crazy, but just being consistent. And now that I'm in the final weeks and I'm kind of like not working so much and I just like, I'm just chilling, I think I might start doing 2 longer walks a day, or like 1 longer walk a day and something else like belly dancing, but we'll see. I've also been doing stretches, like labor prepping stretches. I do them every night. When Andrew and I get into bed, we do that. He also tends to put belly oil on me. We've been doing that since the beginning of the pregnancy. So he'll do that. He'll also rub some like arnica cream into my back where I have those little pain points. So yeah, that's that. I've also been doing the red raspberry leaf tea. I made a big old vat of it. I also put some nettle in there to replenish the minerals and things like that. But yeah, red raspberry leaf tea is said to tone the uterus. So I've been having that like iced at least once a day. And I usually put just like a splash of pomegranate juice in it, and it's really nice. Dates. So dates aren't great. I don't love dates. That's actually not entirely true. I have found my right relationship where I can love dates. So originally I was trying to do dates, like the little date bites covered in chocolate. They get so old. Like I'm so over them. My friend made me a bunch and like I couldn't even finish them. And they're just so rich, and you're supposed to eat. The science shows that you need to eat 6 of them a day, starting at like 34 weeks. And that is scientifically proven to speed up labor and also soften the cervix for effacement and to like hurry along the dilation of the cervix to help the baby come out faster, smoother, whatever. Yeah, I couldn't do it. However, I've been putting them in my smoothies. That's been great. Not an issue. But my favorite is I've started making baked goods that are sweetened with dates. I make this cake. It's like a healthy cake. There's no sugar. Like, it's only dates. It's like, that's the only sweetener. And each slice of the cake has like 6 dates in it. It's like perfect. And then like, it's like dates, eggs. I don't use butter or like an oil. I use Greek yogurt. So it's upping the protein a little bit, lowering the fat. And then it's like flour and some vanilla. Like, it's actually like really healthy. It's super high in fiber too because of the dates. So I've been making cakes, banana bread, like any like baked good that I can find that I can make a little more nutrient dense. And then I just throw the dates in there. Yeah. So I've been doing that. So I have actually been really good about having 6 dates a day. Yeah, but I'm doing it in this like kind of unconventional way, and I'm baking a lot, but I was already baking a lot. Like I haven't talked much about cravings, partially because like, I just don't feel like I have cravings as much as I have aversions. Like, there's just like, things just don't sound as interesting. I don't have much of an appetite. Like, I can tell that I'm hungry, but I just am like, like, I don't know, like a lot of the time. But baked goods, for whatever reason, I've always been more of a savory gal, but in this pregnancy, sweets have been more interesting to me. So I was already baking a lot, and I was like, oh, let's just make some date chocolate chip cookies instead of like sugar chocolate chip cookies. So that's been great. I will say, pro tip, I'm giving you way too much information. Like, I'm making this take so much longer than it needs to take, but I'm just a long-winded gal. So there's 2 types of dates. This is how specific we're getting. There's 2 types of dates that you usually see at the grocery store. Medjool is the most common. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's spelled Medjool. Medjool. They're bigger and they're sweeter. Then you have Neglet dates, Neglet. They're a little bit less sweet and they're like half the size. I like those ones. That's what I've learned. And apparently the study is based off of those smaller dates. So people are eating 6 of these huge medjool dates that are so freaking sugary. Like, of course you can't eat all of those. But the Neglet dates, again, a little less sweet, smaller. You only need like 6 of them. So if you're going to do it, I would say like 3 to 4 medjool dates a day or 6 of the Neglet dates. And that's what I've been doing, is the Neglet dates at this point. Okay. Other body prep, pleasure wand. I already talked about this in a past episode, but basically since the first trimester, I've been using my crystal pleasure wands to basically do perineal massage and kind of soften and de-armor those tissues around the entry of my pussy, where the baby's literally going to need to stretch to come out of. A lot of people do recommend perineal massage, and a lot of people have their partners do it on them. Honestly, I haven't gotten into what I'm not doing, but I'm just going to share this now. I'm actually not having Andrew do that. I thought that I would be like, yeah, you need to do the perineal massage on me because I'm pushing his baby. You need to massage it. No, actually, I actually don't want him to. It's really interesting because, one, I can do it myself, and I actually, because it's my own body, like, I can really tune in. I just feel like, I mean, he's done a lot of de-armoring work on my pussy, and like, it's incredible to have someone do that for you. But for this, like, it's every day. Like, I can do it in the bath or in the shower where I'm already kind of relaxed from the hot water. I can like move at the pace that I want to go. I'm super attuned to the pressure that I need. I don't have to communicate to him to be like harder, softer, whatever. Like, and he's already rubbing oil on my belly. He's already rubbing arnica on my back. We're already having like intimacy dates. Like I'm just like, it's overkill. Like I can do the massage with the pleasure wand, and I actually like doing it. So that's just my 2 cents. Would rather do it myself. We've also talked about like, does he want to watch the baby come out or not? Like that's been a thing for us in the pregnancy. Is interestingly, in the first trimester, he had no problem having sex with me. I had not problems, but like I was challenged by having sex in the first trimester because 1, I wasn't feeling well. 2, I was just worried about the baby because we had a miscarriage previously. So we still had sex, but it just wasn't as much. Then the second trimester was fine, not really an issue. But as I got more and more pregnant, it started to be weirder for Andrew. He's overcome it. Like, we're good. Like, but he was like, yeah, it's just, my daughter is there, and it's just, you know, and I think that that's totally normal and fair. But we've talked about like, okay, like, do you want to watch her come out? I want to watch her come out. I would love, like, this is like bonus points if this happens during my birth. Don't need this to happen, but I would love to be in front of a mirror and watch the baby come out of my pussy. I'm freaking fascinated. I'm like, science. But we don't know if he's going to want to or not. And I'm just like, honestly, in addition to the perineal massage, I'm like, I would rather you just interact with my pussy in a way that's like turns you on and is also pleasurable for me and doesn't feel clinical like a perineal massage stretching my pussy for birth. That's just what's come alive. And again, going into pregnancy, I was like, yeah, you're definitely doing it. Like, it wasn't until suddenly we were in 3rd trimester and it was time for him to start doing it that I was like, actually, no, I don't want you to do that. Okay. Other body prep. Let's talk about sex a little bit more and nipples. Let's talk about sex and nipples. So in case you didn't know, sex and nipple stimulation are both really great for stimulating labor. I've been doing lots of nipple stimulation. Andrew has also been doing it too. That's great. Love it. The idea is that like that pleasure, like it helps oxytocin and serotonin move through your body, which helps you relax and softens the cervix. That's kind of the idea. Sex, really cool. Semen, like male semen, cum, has something in it. I could pull this up right now. I could give you the exact science. It's like it's like, I forgot the word, but it has some special sauce in the cum that helps your cervix open and ripen, and it brings contractions. And I can say this from experience because, okay, backtrack. In 2nd trimester, one time Andrew came inside of me. And I started getting crazy contractions when I was like 20 weeks. So then we started to get a little nervous. Like I was like, like we just started to be a little bit more careful. Like he hasn't been coming inside of me a ton because we didn't want to like accidentally have premature labor because he was just blowing loads inside of me. So we haven't been doing that as much, which is fine. Like we're both totally cool with that. But we are now at the point where it's time for him to start blowing loads in me again because now the baby's cooked, we're ready. So that's kind of exciting. But yeah, like I was like, his semen is strong. My body is a yes. She's like, heard, let's go. So I was like, let's not play with fire. But now we can. Now we can. Okay, so those are some things that we're doing for body prep. Soul things. So many people put an emphasis on the first 40 days. If you haven't heard of this, the first 40 days, sometimes referred to as the 4th trimester, but mostly the first 40 days are the 40 days after you give birth. And in many cultures, this is a deeply sacred time where you're meant to go within and relax and be with your baby and not overexert. There's another rule called the 5-5-5. And the idea is 5 days you're in the bed, 5 days you're on the bed, 5 days you're around the bed. So you're not really like leaving your bedroom. And most people that are doing this are living in cultures where their mother-in-law or their own mom will move into the house and cook for them and take care of them and take care of the house and like all the things, which is obviously a luxury or completely impossible for many of us. So there's that. But so many people put focus on like those first 40 days after the birth. For me, I actually had the intuitive hit to do a 40-day practice before the birth. And in the Pleasure Priestess, which is my, year-long tantric initiation for women, we have a whole practice and thread called 40 Days of Devotion. And at any given time within the container, 1 to 5 of us might be doing a 40-day devotional practice. And it can be anything. The woman that started it or initiated us doing these, she did 40 days of breath work. I've done 40 days of sleeping with my phone in the other room and just not touching my phone for the first hour of the day. I've done a 40-day dieta with a plant, so having a cup of yarrow tea every day for 40 days. Others have done 40 days of pleasure. So 40 days where each day they do something that is just for their pleasure. It might be self-pleasure practice, might be going and getting a massage, might be just making a special meal for themselves. 40 days of pleasure. I got the hit literally on my 40th day, 40 days before my due date. I got the hit to do a 40-day practice of slowing down, a 40-day practice of no rushing, a 40-day practice of moving at the pace of a priestess. And this is something that, people don't talk about. I'm still working. I'm not I'm completely done. Actually, technically, pretty much after I'm done with this recording, I'm mostly done. But, my work is, it's a different relationship. But a lot of people are on their feet and going, until the very end, rushing. And the body doesn't want to go into labor when it's stressed like that. It doesn't feel safe. And so for me, this practice of 40 days of moving at the pace of a priestess is all about really slowing down and easing into that transition of the birth portal and postpartum. So it's been a really cool practice. It was prompted because I was on my way to an appointment and there was an accident. I was meant to be at the appointment 10 minutes early. There was an accident. I almost got hit on my way into the practice. It was just a very, very stressful morning. And I noted I was really rushing because I had a series of appointments and my intention was, okay, if I can get to the first one early, then maybe I can leave early and I'll have all this spaciousness in between. If I want to get a call, I just was and then I felt very stressed when everything was derailed because there was this unexpected accident. So I went and then I almost got hit as I'm pulling into the appointment. So I go in and they take my blood pressure and I have never had an abnormal blood pressure reading. It's always been, they're always that's great. That's great. First time in my life where they were oh yeah, it's a little off, a little high or whatever. It's yeah, I'm not surprised how I'm feeling right now. And so it was just such a reminder to me, my baby feels that. And also I feel that. And it wasn't necessary. Was it stressful and inconvenient that there was this accident and now but I didn't need to rush. It would have been fine if I was 5 minutes late. It would have been okay. I don't need to relate to the world in this way. So it's not even so much that I'm just it's more internal than it is external. Yes, there is some strategy to it because I do want to uphold my commitments and be places on time and do what I say I'm going to do, but I don't need to rush. I don't need to let my nervous system get activated to that degree. So it's been really cool to just be super conscious of that line between rushing and having a level of urgency versus can I just not have urgency at all, or can I just organize my life and my commitments until birth in a way that it just doesn't require that? So that's been really cool. It's led to me just asking for more help. yeah, I've been really enjoying that. Sorry, I'm looking at my next note and I'm like, what does this mean? I don't know. Oh, here's another example of how I did this. Another thing that I noticed, like I've had to ask more for help. Also, I typically listen to podcasts on like 1.25 or 1.5. And like, why am I rushing? Why am I rushing this person's transmission? Sometimes fine. But in this season of life, I notice that if I'm listening to someone's podcast on that higher speed, it causes me to move faster, and it also like revs things up a little bit. So that's been another thing, is that I, have been listening to podcasts slower, just doing everything a little bit slower, and more intentionally, moving at the pace of a priestess. So we're about like 20 days into that practice, which is really cool. So celebrating me. Yay. Haven't done it perfectly, but yeah. And it's also just great to have the community, like the Pleasure Priestess. Obviously I'm holding the container, but I also just get so much from it. And it's so nice to have their support. And like so many of them have actually been like, I'm going to do this too. I love this idea. 40 days of moving at the pace of a priestess. So there's like, I think 3 or 4 of us doing that 40 days. And then I think that there might be 1 or 2 that are doing 40 days in devotion to something else. But I love it. Okay. Additionally, I also built like a little birth altar. That's been another thing that, has been a really sweet way to prepare for the birth on a soul level, and just like praying at that altar. And I've been doing a lot of singing as well, like singing to the baby, singing to the belly, singing to God. That's another way that I pray / meditate. There are songs that I've been singing literally since our first conception, as well as songs that I've picked up throughout. And yeah, I'm just so excited to like sing to this girl when she's on the other side. I really feel like she's got some type of musical, creative, I don't know. Okay. 4. We have 2 more sections. Let's go. 4. Here's what I am so glad I did. Things that I'm so glad that I did to prepare for pregnancy and or birth. 1, I did a doula certification. I did a doula certification through DONA 4 years ago, right around the time that I met Andrew. I'd already signed up for it. I'm so glad that I did that. To me, it gave me so much peace around, like, I have a bit of a resistance towards the Western medical system. I know that it's there, and I appreciate my husband would literally be dead without the Western medical system. So like super grateful for it. And, there's also a lot of corruption and shady practices that happen. And it felt so good to do my doula certification, because it helped me realize like, hey, there are a lot of things that can happen with birth. There are a lot of things that can go quote unquote wrong or sideways or be complicated, but pretty much all of them have a natural remedy or something that you can at least try before you go to a more invasive induction. So that was really cool. It just made me feel way empowered. So yeah, I'm glad I did that. And I mean, it's just like another thing to like have in my toolkit as well. I didn't like actually do the certification. I went to the training. To finish the certification, you need to assist some births and get birth hours. I didn't actually do that. I would. It just at the time, my Tantra business was just blowing up so much, and it just didn't make sense to do that, because to be a doula, like you have to be on call pretty much. At the time I was just traveling so much for work. It wasn't right, but I'm glad that I did the training. And I also just read so much about birth and postpartum before, like way before. I have this client, one of my early female clients came to me through the podcast because she had a bunch of sexual trauma, and she also had birth trauma. And then she, very shortly after we started working together, she became pregnant with her second. And so she was sharing and talking about, like, we were really like using the lens of Tantra and placing it upon her pregnancy and birth experience. And that was really cool that I just naturally got to witness that, because she was in that season. But, you know, she was like, I'm reading this book called The Fourth Trimester. And I was like, cool, I'll read it too. And like, I didn't even have a partner at the time. This was like 2 years before I met Andrew. So I read The Fourth Trimester like 5 or 6 years ago. So that was great, and continued to like read. I was just fascinated by birth and sex and death. And so I read a lot before I even got pregnant. And then obviously once that began, I was reading a bunch more. So if you're a reader, yeah, happy to send some things that I liked. The Fourth Trimester definitely was a good one. I also really liked Expecting Better. That one is actually a very data-driven book. Would highly recommend that one. It's like the follow-up to What to Expect When Expecting. Birth Within is great. That's one that my midwife recommended. Sacred Birthing, a friend recommended, and that was nice. Orgasmic Birth was okay. I kind of like was hoping for something a little bit more, to be honest, but I did like the documentary that they did, and I do like hearing the birth stories on the Orgasmic Birth podcast. Yeah. There's tons of things out there. I've also really loved reading books with Andrew. So since we've gotten pregnant, Andrew and I have had a practice of like reading out loud to each other on our front porch. 2 books that we've really enjoyed reading together. One is called Hunt, Gather, Parent. It's not so much about pregnancy. It's more about like raising children, but it really got us on the same page of how we want to raise kids that aren't super annoying, basically. And it's like a more ancestral approach to parenting. And then we've also really enjoyed a book called And Baby Makes 3. It's by the Gottmans. The Gottmans also have a book called The 7 Principles of a Successful Marriage or something like that. And that was the first book Andrew and I ever read together, again, like 4 years ago when we first started dating. And like, it really set us up for success in our early relationship. So I highly recommend, if you're in that season of life, The 7 Principles of a Successful Marriage or Making a Marriage Work. And then this And Baby Makes 3 is their version of, and how do you do it when you throw the wrench of like having a baby, like an infant to take care of, into the mix. So we've enjoyed those. I also, again, what I'm so glad I did, started taking prenatals super early. I use the Needed brand. They also have ones for men that support semen quality. Highly recommend, because they do say that the quality of the semen affects the placenta as well as like the symptoms that we have, especially in the first trimester. So yeah, recommend those. I'm so glad we went with a midwife. I adore our midwife. Again, I just think about, like, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, having those contractions, like, she was on call. She came over at 3 a.m. Like, do you think that my midwife's name is GB. Do you think that an OB would be coming over at 3 a.m.? No. GB, my midwife, also really supported us in our miscarriage as well. And like, I actually was partially involved with the Western medical system during my miscarriage, and it was such a traumatic experience. They were so awful. So awful. I'm not even going to get into it, but I'm so grateful that I had my midwife to hold me through that. She's amazing. I'm also really grateful and so glad that I put myself in rooms with other moms. Over the past couple of years, I've been very, very intentional to deepen and like build friendships with more women that were already moms, or at the very least were like wanting to be moms as I am. And so I got to see like what they were doing and their experiences and their pregnancies and support them through that. And yeah, I just highly recommend that. Building those friendships and those relationships and getting into those rooms. I also worked with a business coach who was a mom, and that was really helpful and insightful too. So yeah, work with people that have some semblance of the life that you're wanting to create, and also relate to those people too. It's not to say like, you know, write off your friends that don't have the same like intention or vision or lifestyle that you are striving for, but that just was really instrumental for me personally. Another thing that I'm so glad I did was journal during the whole experience. I got this really great journal off Amazon, and it's like week by week there's like a little area for you to put a picture. So I have like a little Polaroid camera, and I can see like each week like what my body and my belly looked like. And I also have like other little memories in here, like our baby shower and our baby moon and just other little things. And then there's a section for you to talk about your symptoms and how you're feeling, and there's a journal prompt for each week as well. And it was really helpful actually preparing for this episode to just flip through that and be like, what should I talk about? Probably shouldn't have though, because it ended up adding a bunch more things. And now this podcast episode is going to be 2 hours. So, but I love journaling, and like, I'm like, even just now, like I'm still pregnant and going back and looking at the first weeks that I journaled, it's like so precious. And I just can't even imagine looking at it like 5 years from now and like showing it to her when like maybe she's going through puberty and like sharing like the magic of her body and what she's able to create because of that. Like, I don't know. I'm really happy I did that. I'm additionally, in terms of like memorializing the experience, I'm super glad that I did photo shoots. I did a photo shoot around 20 weeks just with my friend. And then I also did a photo shoot around 27 weeks with the photographer that was at our retreat. And then, and so both of those like were basically free for me. Like you don't even need to like hire someone to do this. Like have your friend take some and edit them on your phone. Like pull up Pinterest. Like it's not a big deal. You can even just like set up your phone. I did this when I was in, the Caribbean. I like set up my phone on a tripod and I did like a little photo shoot, and I got some like really beautiful photos of myself. That was around 28 weeks. So just like documenting at various stages. There's so much inspiration on Pinterest. I also did, what else? My friend took photos of us, like me and Andrew together at around like 34 weeks, I think. I'm still waiting to get those back though. They're on film. I'm so excited. So yeah. And then we also got, I also had, a photographer come to our mama blessing and take photos. I actually kind of regretted not having a photographer for our baby shower. I do regret that. Or like having someone that was like really dedicated and on it. I mean, you do you, but I wish I would have done that. And that's why for my mama blessing, I was like, all right, I'm like for sure getting a photographer for this. And out of the two, I am happy that I had that professionally photographed over the baby shower. But in retrospect, I would have loved both. We got some photos, but they're just not great quality of the baby shower. And yeah, I'm like now kind of coming to the end, and I'm like, frick, I kind of want to do another one, like just maybe like myself, like pulled up, like with a tripod, because it's just like, she just changes so much and it's incredible. Sorry, excuse me. That was like a little burp from my bubbles, my little bubble water. So yeah. Also documenting, there's a place in Austin called the Baby Bump Keepsakes. And basically they do a 3D scan of your entire body and they turn it into a statue of pregnant you. You obviously can do it when you're not pregnant. You can do it, like they do it for like dogs and things like that, but their main market is pregnant women. And it's the only place in the US that has this technology. So we're so lucky to have that in Austin. If you were in Austin and you were pregnant, you have to do this. And then if you're not in Austin, you should fly in and do it. Honestly, they have people that do that. I think it's like, okay, I got the biggest statue that you can get. And I think it was around like $250 or $300. So it's an investment, but it's also like, I'm kind of like, I think it could be more, to be real. Like it's not as much as I thought like they could charge. And so I think that the smallest ones are around like $150 or something. But Baby Bump Keepsakes, they have all their prices on their website, so you can look into it. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get this back. So yeah, that's that. And also what I'm glad that I've done is just like romanticize and celebrate like every step of the way. Like I hosted girls' nights and we made, homemade, intentional, ritualistic oil for our bellies to prevent stretch marks. Like, I took the trips, like, do the baby shower, like, celebrate this season. It is so, 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 so magical. And ask your friends to take part in it. Ask your beloved as well. Like, it's just such a magical season. And I'm really glad that I fully, like, am romanticizing every moment of it. Finally, another thing that I'm so glad I did was establish financial freedom for myself and, like, within our partnership. I think that's huge. Obviously, it just doesn't happen for everyone, but I think for him and I, in our nervous systems, we both come from homes where there was lots of arguing about money and separation because of money and things that we weren't able to do, and just, like, a lot. And so it just feels really good to feel like, okay, we're, like, locked in that regard. And I think that honestly, we both, like, I knew, like, I was like, I'm not getting pregnant until I have the level of financial freedom where I can live a somewhat similar lifestyle that I live now, but with a kid. And pretty much that's the case. So I'm really grateful for that. And a lot of that has happened because of preparing my work for motherhood, because yes, I wanted to be making enough money to have the same lifestyle, but I also didn't want to sacrifice my experience of motherhood by being a mother who is working a ton so she has the money to have the lifestyle she wants, but isn't actually available to be the type of mother that she wants to be. So I just want to be clear that that's been something that has been years in the making. Like, that is not something that happened overnight. When Andrew and I first got together 4 years ago, he was like, let's have babies immediately. And I was like, yeah, I'm not ready. Mostly I'm not ready because my business isn't ready. So, and I'll also say that this is one thing that I missed on my list. I also made a list of things that I wanted to do before motherhood, and I did those. Some of those had to do with business, but some didn't. For example, I wanted to get LASIK eye surgery before motherhood. I was like, I can't imagine, like, I'm already bad about taking out my contacts. Like, I can't even imagine having, like, an infant and like being on that. So we did that. I also wanted to have our wedding on our land. We did that. There were a couple of trips I wanted to go on, did those. But a big one was writing my book and publishing it. So that happened as well. But yeah, when we got together in 2022, that was my first 6-figure year in my business. But, you know, I was traveling constantly. I was doing Tantra rituals out of our spare bedroom, and, like, we were living in an apartment. I had to kick Andrew out to, like, host these rituals, or, like, he would have to be sequestered in, like, a bedroom and, like, silent. You know, it wasn't really sustainable for the type of, like, life that it wouldn't support motherhood. And I knew that I could make more impact and also more income and also be home with my family more if I just shifted things around a little bit. So that journey began, 4 years ago. And it looked like hiring a lot more help. It looked like still doing one-on-one, but raising my one-on-one prices, and also focusing my marketing more on group containers like retreats, play parties, online membership style things. My book obviously created so many amazing opportunities for me, touched so many people. Creating the Pleasure Priestess was absolutely huge. I built that entire program for women, for their bodies, for the feminine experience, including motherhood, and for myself, to go through that transition. And I'm so grateful that I did that. There was also a lot of inner work that happened in my business to kind of just untangle my identity from work, because I think a lot of women go through this with the postpartum experience where they're like, and who knows how this is going to be for me, but yeah, it can be, like, really challenging to go from being the boss babe, and the Tantra teacher and the orgasmic leader to suddenly, like, oh shit, like, I'm a mom now. And that role is actually taking up a much bigger part in my life. And what does that mean? And, like, so often as baddies, we tie our worth up into our productivity and our business. So I've also been doing really consciously over the last couple of years, I've been doing a lot of inner work on untangling that and being really conscious of how much validity I put my, like, how much of my worth is tied up in my role as like a Tantra leader and businesswoman. Yeah. And last year we went into the year knowing that we were going to conceive. So I very intentionally simplified my business. I closed some of my memberships, made them evergreen. I sold my play party community, and I really doubled down on our retreats and Pleasure Priestess, because those were the two spaces where I saw the biggest impact, and also was having, you know, more of my income come from. And so, yeah, I was just simplify to amplify. So yeah, those are the things that I did to kind of prepare my work for motherhood. And I'm so glad that I did that. So glad that I did that. So what I wish I would have done differently. I think that's where we're at now. This is definitely going to be the longest episode of the podcast there's ever been. Thanks for being here. If you're still listening, love you. Okay, here's what I wish I would have done differently. I wish that I would have prepped food for pregnancy. So many people talk about prepping food for postpartum. I actually wish that I would have done freezer meals for pregnancy, because, especially in the first trimester, yes, there were a lot of aversions, but a lot of my aversions were around cooking. Like, I could eat meat, not all meat, but I wouldn't eat any meat that I had to cook. So someone else had to cook it and bring it to me. I didn't really want it cooked in the house. I hated the smell of it. I could order takeout. I could go to a friend's house and have meat. And plenty of other foods too. I'm just using meat as an example because that was one of the more intense ones. But we did happen to just have, like, I had some chili that I had frozen, and like some soups and things that I just had frozen, like, by chance. And they're super nutrient dense. Knew that I had cooked them. They were the highest, like quality ingredients. And I wish, like, I just happened to have them, but I wish that I had had so much more, because I started to just feel guilty because we were just ordering so much food. And like, you just don't know, like, a lot of the stuff that you're ordering, it's not organic. There's seed oils, all of it. And yeah, I just wish I had like prepped food for pregnancy too. And even like for the days that I didn't want to eat things, like, there were some things that we had prepped. Like, for example, I had a bunch of like turkey. I had made like a turkey dinner for Andrew and I for Thanksgiving, even though we went to someone else's house and like did a full Thanksgiving there and they had a turkey. I was like, I love Thanksgiving so much that I want to have like more than one turkey dinner. So we made a bunch of it, but it was like, we froze some of it because it was just like too much for us in that time. And so Andrew was like eating the Thanksgiving dinners for like a few weeks, which was really great because I do really love to cook, and I love to cook for him. And it's one of the ways that I express my love. And in that season of the first trimester, it just was almost impossible to cook, especially anything that he would really want. And it felt really good for me to know, like, okay, like, he's getting some of my nourishment that I made weeks before. Like, he's still getting my love that way, especially in a season where I was leaning on him so much. Not that it needed to be tit for tat or transactional in any way, but it felt really like good. And in the future, I will definitely prep a ton for my first trimester, especially, and even second trimester. So that's that. Other things I would do differently. I would release the expectations around how healthy I do pregnancy. I think we go into pregnancy being like, oh, I'm going to take such good care of my body and I'm going to give my baby like all of the best. And in reality, a lot of it, you're just surviving, especially the first trimester. For me, that's how it was. And again, I think that I had a pretty mild to moderate pregnancy. I've talked to a lot of friends that had it way worse. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, there was a lot of it where I felt like I was just surviving. And again, I talk way more about my first trimester in that episode. What is it? 205? Yeah, 205. So that's that. Other things I wish I'd done differently. Taken people's advice about what to take on and not take on even more seriously. I think I did a pretty good job at this. I would give myself a B, maybe a B minus. But again, I had been around a lot of moms and they were pretty clear don't expect to do anything productive in trimester 1 or trimester 3. Trimester 2 is really the only time to plan literally anything, trips, work stuff, whatever. And I think I did a really good job of that around my work. That I timed pretty much perfectly. I would even say that I've actually had a lot more motivation for my work in third trimester than expected, which is nice. But it's been kind of like a bonus, and it wasn't anything that I was expecting out of myself. But I timed everything really well for the second trimester to be like the outward pouring in my business. Where I think I could have done better, again, is especially third trimester around the capabilities of my body, like, and first trimester, like both of them, both first trimester, I was in Europe for 3 weeks. It wasn't fun. Wasn't a fun trip. Like I regret it. Like I will just say, like, I kind of regret that, which is crazy as someone who loves travel and loves Europe. And I feel similarly around our travels. Like I'm really glad that the last trip we did was the baby moon at week 30 or 31, because I was thinking about going to Nashville to go to a concert with a friend this last weekend, or I think it was like a week or so ago. So, around week 35, 36. And I'm so glad that I didn't end up doing that. And that was her call. I was like, if you're going to go, I'm going to go. And she was like, oh, I just think it doesn't make sense, like with the other plans that I have and financially, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, if you're not going to go, I'm not going to go. But yeah, in the future, I don't think that I would book any trips past like week 27 or 28, honestly, unless it was like a road trip. I say that now, but who knows? So yeah, I wish I would have taken that even more seriously. And just generally, like, yeah, you just don't know what to expect, especially if you've never been pregnant before. But I've also heard people say, like, my pregnancies were completely different. The symptoms were completely different. So who knows? Other things I wish I would have done differently. I wish I wouldn't have tried to push through the aversions, especially in trimester 1. Like, I had a lot of aversions, and I really I would try to force myself to eat salmon. And to this day, I can't eat salmon because I tried to push myself to eat it. And I'm like, did I ruin salmon for myself for my entire life? I don't know. We'll see what happens after this pregnancy. But yeah, I wish I would have just given myself a lot more like grace and permission in that. Like I remember crying because I just felt like I was just like not nourishing my baby very well. And I think that like, that's the thing is like, eat really well, like, and nourish yourself and take your prenatals for months ahead of time, because those things are stockpiling in your body, and you don't need to be as hard on yourself when you're just literally trying to survive. I also wish I would have done more back strength exercises before pregnancy. Again, like I've been having back pain, and I typically do a lot more like glutes, legs, core exercises. Those are the parts of my body that I'm more interested in sculpting and that I enjoy working out more. I really don't like working out my upper body, my arms and my back, but I kind of wish that I had more muscle there to support my back, because it probably wouldn't be hurting so bad if I would have done that. And then I also, I don't know if I would say I wish I'd done this differently, but I just want to note that like there is such a social dip inwards. When you're pregnant, your progesterone goes so high. And basically the other time that happens for women is in their luteal phase. So basically pregnancy is like one giant luteal phase. And I was not prepared for how much I would be like a no to hanging out with people, or like not as interested in hosting and things like that. And that was a bit of an identity death as someone who really loves to host. So just putting that out there. Okay, we're on part 5. We're gonna sail through this. This is the part where I'm going to talk about my postpartum plan. So I already talked about the first 40 days. We're going to be honoring that to a degree. Generally, people don't leave their house for the first 40 days. I doubt that I'm going to stay home for 40 days. How I'm practicing the 40 days is I'm going to do 40 days of like no pressure on myself, pleasure over pressure, what feels good for me and my baby. If it feels good for me to go out and like have a nice little coffee date with my baby and my husband lazily, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to like pressure myself like I have to stay home for 40 days because of the 40 days practice. That's not what 40 days is about for me. 40 days is about like really just being in a space where I can be completely spontaneous with what feels aligned and true for me, my baby, our growing family, my body, etc. So there will be that. Generally planning on doing like 5 days in the bed, 5 days on the bed, 5 days around the bed. But if I'm feeling like, hey, I want to go outside, or I feel like I could walk to the mailbox, like maybe I'll do that. We'll see. I'm not putting any expectations on myself or the experience. However, Andrew is aware of like this intention and is very prepared to support me in that vision. And then also I have amazing friends who are like, I'll be there. I'll help whatever you need. Also postpartum related to work, I have 8 weeks where I'm not facilitating at all. That's actually starting before postpartum though. So it won't be, probably depending on when she comes, I could have 7 to 8 weeks of no facilitating. I could have, like, if she comes the absolute latest that she could possibly come, I'll probably have like 4 or 5 weeks of no facilitating anything. But even the thing that I would be facilitating, it would be like a call, like one ritual in the Pleasure Priestess. And those are actually like really nourishing for me. Like, it's like, we're going to do like a ritual where you're going to connect to your body and find God in your soma. And like it's the type of stuff that like, honestly, even if like, also I can have one of my mentees run that session if I'm not feeling up for it. And even then I might want to tune in and just like receive that myself. Like that's one of the things is like one of my mentees is running one of our rituals while we're gone and one of our masterminds. She's amazing. Kristen, she's been on the podcast, and she was talking about she's going to be leading our pleasure mapping ritual, and she was telling me what she wants to do for it. Which we've done this ritual. She's done this ritual multiple times with me already, but I was like, I want you to bring your own spin to it if you feel up to it. And so she was sharing with me her ideas, and I was like, fuck, like, I kind of want to be on that. Like, I want to listen. I want to do that. Like, it just so happens that the ritual is the same day as Mary Magdalene's feast day. And so she's bringing in like a really cool element for that. And I'm like, oh shit. So if I'm not actually giving birth, I might just like be on the call and like soak it in, because yeah, it just sounds really nice. So anyways, but I have all the spaciousness with no facilitating. I don't have any in-person events until November either. So like I don't have to be anywhere besides my house for my work until November. So that's, I'll be fully out of the 4th trimester by then. Which is so nice. Andrew also gets 3 months of paternity leave. He works from home too. So even after he goes back, there's lots of flexibility for us. We're both very grateful. Also prepping for postpartum by just doing lots of nesting in my business. So I'm getting really ahead on podcast episodes. My team is like on it. We've pretty much planned out everything in the business until 2027. And now we're just like, half of it's implemented, half of it like is the plan for implementation is there. I might keep doing some of the implementation until I am until I'm like going into labor. I don't know. I'm just going to see how I feel day by day, but I'm like, I have the energy. Like, I actually have a lot of energy right now, despite like it being the 3rd trimester. And I'm also like not really sleeping that much. So I'm going to take advantage of it before I have a baby that I get to take care of all night. That's that. We've also put a deposit down for a night nanny. Possibly controversial. I don't know, but I have 2 women that I really respect, who have highly encouraged giving it a try. So we're going to give it a try, see how it goes. Just a couple of nights a week, to support us. I also have totally stocked the fridge with so many meals, and snacks for postpartum, breakfast tacos, pastas, little sweet treats that are super healthy. And then our friend also set up a meal train for us, so we'll have support with that as well. I'm also planning on doing belly binding today, literally right before this call. I did a practice of my belly binding. So you can obviously get these like waist trainer, like polyester sort of like Velcro things, which even like I might end up getting one of them because even my like super crunchy granola mom friends were like, it's just easier to have that rather than to do the whole like, there's a classic Indonesian style wrap. I forgot what it's called, but they're like, you know, anyways, that's what I'm leaning towards because I have a belly binding for pregnancy and I just hate wearing it. Even though I do feel like it helps support my belly, it just doesn't feel good on my skin. I don't love wearing it. Whereas this traditional belly binding is like a long piece of cotton fabric. And for those that have been following along for a while, you know that I'm like a natural fiber girly through and through. And so I practiced doing it today. Because it does take like 5-10 minutes to wrap it up, but I'm like, this is totally doable. Like I would way rather do this than spend money on like a piece of plastic that I'm going to hate wearing. So at the end of the day, if I decide that I do want to get the piece of plastic, I can just order it from Amazon. But I am planning on belly binding in that traditional way. My friend also said she could come and tie me up, like especially in those early days, which I'm really grateful for. People specifically asked about co-sleeping. When I was recording this episode or planning to record this episode, people specifically were like, hey, like, what's your plan for sleeping? Like, that was one of the questions that the audience asked. I don't fucking know, to be honest. Like, we have a bassinet that's going to be in our room. We're planning on having her sleep in that until she's probably about 6 months old. I like... There are risks with co-sleeping and there are ways to make it way safer. I lean towards caution and am a little bit like, I would rather her be in the bassinet. I don't want to like risk anything. And if the baby's not fucking sleeping and will only sleep on me or Andrew, like I'm going to prioritize our overall well-being and health. And like, we might do some co-sleeping. Like, I don't know. We'll see. But we did get her a Montessori bed instead of a crib, which I'm really excited about. The Montessori style, if you're unfamiliar, is really about fostering independence. So the bed is like level with the floor and it's actually a twin size bed. So I'm really excited about that when the time comes, but she probably won't be sleeping in that until she's at least 6 months, regularly at least. Breastfeeding we're planning on doing, but I'm also... Oh, I forgot to talk about another thing I forgot to talk about the other things I'm not doing. We might have to go back to that. We're already at 2 hours. So I'm like, do I split this into 2 episodes? Breastfeeding. We're going to do breastfeeding. I would like to breastfeed for a year. We'll see though. Like, again, I'm very much okay with if we need to supplement with formula, if we need to switch things up, that's okay. As long as baby gets fed and my mental health is prioritized, like those are the top 2 things for me. And if we can do that while breastfeeding the entire time, awesome. If we need to supplement or do something else, that's okay too. Okay, that's everything. But let's go back to the things I'm not doing, because I missed those. So going back a section, what I'm not doing. Collecting colostrum. This is something that I thought I was going to do. I've seen a lot of people do it. As I mentioned, I did have some come in as early as like 27 weeks. I haven't had a ton come in, but I also haven't been like really trying to collect it. I initially thought, of course I'll collect the colostrum. Like, why not? Like, that'll be good to have on hand. Intuitively though, for some reason, the baby / my body is telling me, no, the baby will get it when she needs it. We don't need to worry about doing that. So I'm not doing it. That's it. I don't know. I tend to be like a type A overachiever and do all of the things. And like, interestingly though, I was planning on doing it just like I was planning on Andrew doing the perineal massage, and it's just a no. Another thing, encapsulating my placenta. So, another great book is Placenta, the something chakra, the 8th chakra, I think. It's something like that. Loved that book about the placenta. And in it, you know, they offer the benefits of consuming your placenta. It holds like a bunch of nutrients and hormones. In the wild, many mammals eat their placenta. There's a debate on whether it's because it's an organ, which as we know, because in the wellness spaces, organ supplements are viral right now. There's tons of nutrients in the placenta. It's literally an organ that you make for the baby. So there are lots of nutrients in it. But in the wild, they eat it, maybe for the nutrients, but also there's an argument that the mammals are more likely eating it because there might be like a predator that could come and like smell the afterbirth and then maybe eat the baby too. So that's why they eat it. One thing I'm definitely not going to do is encapsulate it. That what happens when you encapsulate it is that they basically like cook it, like dehydrate it and then put it into a capsule. I'm like, why would I do that? That's going to, if I want to eat it, which I'm not sure I'm going to eat it at all. If I do eat it, that to me, I'm like, that's just messing with the nutrients. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So what I've decided, the one thing that I feel passionate, and again, like I thought that I was going to be really passionate about encapsulating the placenta or eating the placenta in one way or another. I'm actually really not. I've also heard other women say that eating their placenta made them kind of cuckoo because of all of the hormones in it, and they felt better when they stopped taking the encapsulations or stopped consuming their placenta. So, you know, just throwing that out there as like, you know, devil's advocate, but I'm just going to be intuitive about it. What I am really passionate about is getting a print of it. So you can take the bloody placenta and put it against a piece of watercolor paper, and then you have like a print of it. So I definitely want that. Another thing that's come through that I'm really excited about is getting it made into a diamond. So I have a friend, she has a business called Eterniva, and basically they take ashes or any carbon material and they can turn it into a diamond. So we did this with Andrew's dad. I talked about that actually again in episode 205. There's a special way that I announced my pregnancy to Andrew that involves his dad's diamond, but he had his dad made into a diamond. And I was like, I bet we could do that with a placenta. We would just need to basically burn it into ashes, and then we can have the placenta that has my DNA, Andrew's DNA, and the DNA of the baby. Like, talk about a family stone. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to do that. So I'm going to have to save the whole placenta or some of the placenta for that. But I also was like, maybe I will want to eat some of this. I don't fucking know. So our midwife said that she could take a piece of it and freeze it for us, basically. So if I decide that I want to have it, I can. And if I don't, then I can just throw it to the diamond or bury it in the yard, or like, because that's another thing that I've seen people do that feels more in alignment for me, is like burying it with a tree in our yard. But I think that the diamond is just like the most on brand. So that's what we're almost certainly doing that. Okay. Last thing that I'm not doing, and this is also like the last little bit of the episode, I'm not worrying about a water birth. Everyone's like, oh, are you going to do a water birth? Are you going to do a water birth? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's another thing that I would have thought I would be way more passionate about or worried about. But I'm like, yeah, like I have my tub that I can get in if I want to relax. Generally though, if you do a water birth, your midwife, if you want to do a water birth, your midwife will highly suggest that you get these like inflatable birth pools, and they just go in your living room. And it's so fucking funny. I think about this like giant plastic tub in the middle of my beautifully curated living room, and I just am like, nope, not for me. Don't want to do that. Not where I want to poop the baby out. In this plastic tub. And it's so silly because I know that in reality, like, I'm not going to care like when I'm in it, but it just like, I tuned into it. I was like, am I being weird about this? Like, should I just have it on hand just in case? I like connected to the spirit of the baby, and like, it just is a clear no. So we do have our tub, we have the shower, so I can still use water as a tool. I technically could still give birth in this tub. It's just a little, when you're in the big water birth pool, your midwife can get in there, your partner can get in there. So it's a little bit more complicated, but I honestly feel like I'm going to be in the tub for labor, but I feel like I'm going to push her outside of the tub. But I did get some like pillows, like bath pillows that are tub friendly, so that I can like get really comfortable, and like, cause that's the thing with the birth pools. It has like the soft edges and stuff like that. So anyways, oh my God, that's everything. We did it. 2 hours. Thank you for being here for this journey. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. All right. Have a sacred and sexy day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being human with me, for being along for my human story. This is officially the longest episode. I can't believe I went into this and was like, we're going to try to do this in an hour. And here we are. All right. Without further ado, ta-ta. Catch you next time.
Every woman has a pleasure superpower. Do you know yours? If not, I created the free Pleasure Power quiz to help you discover your unique pleasure archetype so you can maximize what comes naturally to you, deepen your confidence in your desires, and embody your pleasure with the most ease and power. When you take the quiz, you'll also receive a free Tantra ritual tailored to your unique archetype. This is designed to help you embody this aspect of yourself and not just understand it intellectually. Also, don't miss the free Sexual Shadow Work Workbook, your guide to clearing shame, activating your turn-on, and stepping into your most radiant embodied self. Find them both at www.talktantratome.com/free or get the link in the show notes. Life is about to get so very juicy.